Oh, fuck. Where's me fucking microphone gone? Hold on. That's better. So, where were we? This is a continuing on from the previous episode. I was scripted episodes. Okay, the next one is stand-up, because I've long had this idea in my head that I'd like to give stand-up a go. And stand-up is essentially a scripted episode. That's all that is. I mean, if you've ever seen a comedian, one of the great things about watching a good stand-up comedian is it comes across as though they're just making it up on the spot. Are they? Fuck. If it's an hour and a half, that hour and a half is word for fucking word, or as near as makes no difference, what they've been rehearsing and what they've been writing for weeks, months, maybe fucking years. Okay? So a scripted episode is essentially a piece of stand-up. Now, it'd have to be a funny episode, and I've no real intention of making a funny episode per se anytime soon, but I do intend to script episodes, rehearse them, and record them to a much higher quality than what I'm doing now. And I don't mean the sound, I mean what I say and how I say it, so that there's basically a start, middle, and end. Okay? So that was stand-up. Merchandise is another thing. I'm sitting here, I can just about see my reflection in the perspex in front of me. I'm wearing my Off The Lead t-shirt, and I have an Off The Lead hat, and I have an Off The Lead kind of coat thing, and I've Off The Lead mugs. I've loads of different things that I could actually be selling already, but I'm not. And the slow part of this is I'm not willing to, like, the t-shirt that I have on, I don't know where it's made. Most likely Bangladesh. It was fucking given to me as a gift. The same with the mugs. I guess it was China. And that runs contrary to the ethos of the whole Off The Lead thing. So what I'm in the market for now, and again, if anybody can fucking help me here, I'm all ears. I'm offthelead@gmail.com, will get me. But what I'm in the market for now is a manufacturer of hats, preferably with Irish wool. No, not preferably with Irish wool. Hats made from Irish wool in Ireland, full stop. That's all it needs to be, okay? That they can either do the branding, or I can buy the hats and I can get the fucking branding done on them, okay? The same goes with mugs. Do you know someone who makes mugs? Do you know a small factory that makes mugs? I don't need tens of thousands of these things. If I could buy 10 fucking mugs and get someone to put an Off The Lead fucking sticker on them, or better again, get somebody to make mugs for me with the Off The Lead logo already on them, fucking deadly. That's what I'm all about. I'm not interested in getting them made in China, designed in India, and shipped halfway around the world to Ireland, okay? It's not what I'm about. But anyway, that's merchandise. Patreon is another thing that I haven't fully wrapped my head around. Kofi and Coffee, I think it's called. Kofi, I'm not sure. Past guest and friend of the show, Dave Webster, and past guest, friend of the show, and my little baby brother, Pat McKeown, mentioned this. I think it's Coffee, it's pronounced. Kofi. It's an alternative to Patreon, I believe. But its difference is it allows one-time only payments in a way that Patreon for some reason doesn't. PayPal is another thing. Like, I have a PayPal account, and my understanding is that if somebody wanted to throw me a few quid, they can do it on PayPal. But again, these are just things that I have to learn a little bit more about, get links created, and have my Patreon, my Coffee, and my PayPal link in everything that I produce, basically. So if anybody ever has any kind of inclination to support me in what I'm doing, it's as easy as pie. There's half a dozen different ways they can do it. They can buy merch, they can send money to half a dozen different places, whatever the hell it is. The next one on the list is a winemaking kit. Past guest and friend of the show, Pat O'Reilly, is big into making his own wine. He's been brewing wine, 5 or 6 years. He bought, I think he makes 30 bottles at a time. So he basically bought a kit, a winemaking kit that will make 30 bottles. And every time he makes 30 bottles, he starts from scratch, sterilizes everything, and starts with new grape juice concentrate, or whatever the fuck it is. Now, I've been keen to do that for God knows how long, and I've been really toying with the idea of doing it recently. And the reason being is I can kind of afford it, because what I'm thinking of doing is taking the few bob that I'm making on Patreon and using that to buy what I need to brew the wine. And the idea of brewing the wine is, when I get everything delivered, all the bits and pieces that I need, when I get it delivered, I'll video me unboxing everything. The idea being, I pull out all these tubes and pipes and I go, what the fuck is this? Does this go this way or does that go that way? And just do a 5-minute video of an intro into unboxing the kit. The next thing then would be, I'd have had spent maybe half an hour going through everything and setting it up, and then I go and show you exactly what it is and bring you along on the journey. As I'm learning, whoever wants to fucking jump in can learn with me. So that's bubbling around in my fucking head as well. My mission statement, I mentioned it there a while ago. A friend of mine asked me recently, had I given up on the whole, domesticated humans thing? Because when I started this whole thing, it was in an effort to push back against what I call the domestication of humans. The fact that, as I see it, we've essentially bred ourselves to consume, okay? We're essentially cattle that's being milked. Only what's being milked is our finances. And I used to harp on about this a good bit at the start, and it's I haven't mentioned it, but it's still the root cause of why I started it and why I continue to do it. So I'm still working on the mission statement, because a friend of mine basically asked me what was my mission statement. He doesn't listen to the podcast, but he has an interest in it, and we were chatting about it, and he asked me to outright what was my mission statement. And I started fumbling me fucking words. I shouldn't. I should have that rhymed off. It should be what's called an elevator pitch. I should have 30 seconds of what the hell it is that I'm about. And just to flesh that out very slightly, an elevator pitch is generally a business term whereby the scenario is you're working on the 5th floor of some building and you have this business idea in your head, a startup business idea that you think is going to change the world. For me, it's the off the lead thing, okay? So I'm going down in the lift and it stops on level 2 and me on my way to the ground floor. The doors open, Bill Gates walks in and you're like, fuck me. One of the richest men in the world is fucking in the lift with me. You've 30 seconds to make an impression. And that's where you rhyme off your elevator pitch. Okay, that's why it's called an elevator pitch. But anyway, it's basically what you're all about encapsulated in a 20-second soundbite. It gets across what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're going to go with it, the difference that it'll make, the return on your investment, all those things, but in 30 seconds. Okay, now there's another expression that I love, me that loves my little sayings. What is it? I'm sorry I didn't have the time to write. I'm sorry for the length of my letter, but I didn't have the time to write you a short one. And there's something to that. It's easy for me, and again, that's part of why I need to start preparing for these better and doing more scripted versions of it. Because by picking up the mic and just talking like I'm doing now, it's great, don't get me wrong. I recommend everybody do it. Everybody should do this as a form of fucking self-help, if nothing else. It's a form of therapy, both talking and even the cunts listening, and especially with the conversations. With the conversations that I have with people, it's therapy for me, it's a bit of therapy for the guest, and hopefully it's a bit of therapy for somebody fucking listening. But anyway, that's been bubbling around in my head. COVID has been bubbling around in my head. I don't think in the year or so that COVID has been going on, I can't think, certainly not off the top of my head, I can't think of a single thing that I've seen people do that I thought, that's class. That's fucking deadly. That's making the best of a bad situation. I love what yous did there, lads. Yous fucking did this, and this, and now yous can fucking do whatever the hell yous want because you're COVID safe and all the fucking rest of it. That bugs me. And what bugs me even more, I think, is that there's no call to action. Like our government are telling us, as best as I'm aware, that if you want to do something to help, it's stay at home. And I get that. I'm not saying people shouldn't stay at home. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Whether or not you agree with the guidelines, stick by the fucking guidelines. But anyway, what I'd love to see our government do is asking them for their help. Have you got an idea? Do you know of something that might work? If so, send it into here where we'll fucking, all of us collectively put our fucking heads together and see what we can do for old people, for disabled people, for fucking whoever the fuck it might be. Lonely people, isolated people. Like, there's surely more than we can do than just fucking stay at home. That's COVID. Ancient civilizations. I'm fucking mad to get back into the ancient civilization stuff. But again, as you can probably guess, there's so much bubbling around inside my fucking head, I can't fucking get to any of it. But ancient civilizations is something that I want to get back into. Drugs is another thing I want to get back into. Uploading to YouTube and clipping, like I mentioned, and mining my content, all that jazz. Okay, that was 25. That was a list of 25 things. It took me, I don't know, if it took me 2 seconds to write each one, it probably took me less than a minute to just throw out what's bubbling around in my head. If I spent another minute, I'd have another 25 things rattling around in my head. Why am I fucking sharing this out loud to myself and to whoever might be listening? The reason is I'm not going to get shit done with so much bubbling around in my head. I need to fucking prioritize. I need to sit down, look at this fucking list, cross off the things that I won't be bothered about not doing in the next 6 months. Okay? So if there's something that jumps out at me that I can't do in the next 6 months, or that I won't get to in the next 6 months, draw a fucking line through it. Get the list down to what you're going to do or strive to do within the end of the day or the week or the month. Because without that, I'm just going to end up in a fucking cloud of my own thoughts, banging out the odd fucking solo here and there, having the odd conversation here and there, and dragging myself forward. Now, look, forward progress is forward progress. But just a little bit of stepping back, a little bit of fucking, okay, Frano, what's going on around you? What do you need to get done? What would you be better off doing right now? And this doesn't apply to, this isn't, a fucking how to set up a podcast tutorial. This is appreciating that your mind is fucking mental with 101 different things going on, and you trying to fucking tidy it up a little bit, basically. Because it's going to be hard enough for me to get to fucking half of these things and do them to any kind of a degree without there being no fucking plan in place in the first place. So, what am I going to do now? I'm going to upload whatever I don't have uploaded to YouTube, with the view of uploading to YouTube as I record it, so I don't have to sit down and spend an entire day uploading stuff and making thumbnails for stuff and all that jazz. I'm going to get that done today. I've got the 2 solos done, so I can put that behind me. It's only early. I've got the rest of the day to upload everything. And if by tomorrow morning I've uploaded everything that I have to upload, I can start it fresh tomorrow. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing today. If I get more done, it's a bonus. But today, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get everything uploaded. And that's it. Because tomorrow, that'll be done. That'll be behind me. I won't have that to do in the future. And the point is to stay on top of it moving forward. And that's it. So hopefully there's something in all that fucking crazy madness that you can fucking relate to your own chaotic mental fucking lives, because you mightn't be thinking of merchandise and scripted episodes and fucking pigs and chickens and mobile studios, but no doubt you're thinking about this kid or that kid or this school or this shopping you have to do, or the fucking lawn or the patio or the leaky fucking ceiling in one of the rooms in your house, or that drafty fucking window, whatever the fuck it is. Write them down, get some fucking clarity of mind, give yourself some fucking space, give yourself some sort of a realistic fucking goal so that you can do it, and step by step, incrementally you might say, move the fuck forward. And on that note, I'll chat to you soon.